Mention the word abortion and our minds immediately go to the legal, ethical and moral issues around it. Yes, abortion is legal in South Africa through the Choice in Termination of Pregnancy Act. And yes, a woman has the right to choose. But on Health Matters today, we're not discussing any controversy around abortion, but rather we're taking a purely medical look at it.
So the definition of an abortion, in fact, we prefer not to call it an abortion, but rather a termination of a pregnancy. This can mean anything which results in the termination of a pregnancy before it is officially time for it to, spontaneously, either be in labor.
While discussions usually head down the right to choose path, we hardly talk about instances where abortion is the only option.
So when we speak about necessary, that often comes generally from the medical personnel. So at any point, if a pregnancy is posing danger to the mom, then we have a conversation with the mom. Let's just say, for example, it's hypertension, severe hypertension that is putting mom's life in danger and necessitates for us to advise her or to offer her a termination. That would be something that would be called necessary. Having said that, back to the definition of a choice, where it comes from or it is a request from a woman themselves. Again, that is also, you can look at it as necessary if it is necessary for her.
There are two ways in which an abortion can be performed: surgical, which is done in a clinic or hospital, and medical, which involves pills.
A pregnancy that is less than 8 weeks, we may use just medication, so what you call pharmacological drugs to terminate the pregnancy. Up to 12 weeks, it may be a combination of the pharmacological drugs, including some kind of surgical intervention for aspirating, which is basically just cleaning the womb. Then you start moving on to above 12 weeks. Again, this is important. The bigger the pregnancy is, the more danger there is and the more higher expertise you need in terms of the person that is looking after that termination.
It is, of course, always a good idea for the individual, the couple or family to get counseling before an abortion is performed. It's also important for the woman to understand exactly what to expect.
The big risks that we often are concerned about are mainly bleeding as well as infection. And if you look, for example, before we had the act in place, there were a lot of women who actually died from those two conditions, bleeding and sepsis or infection, as a result of unsafe terminated pregnancies. And that is why, if you even look at the way that we will conduct, depending on the gestation, it has to be in a facility that is legible to do the process, but secondly, with clinicians who know what they're doing.
One of the biggest worries for many women undergoing an abortion is whether they will be able to have children at a later stage.
Termination of pregnancy, whether choice or recommended from a clinician, should not cause infertility. Now, there are other complications, like if somebody needs a surgical intervention in terms of cleaning the womb. If they overdo it, you may scrape that lining of the uterus to a point where the two sides of the womb will stick together, what we call Asherman syndrome, and that may have some kind of a bearing in terms of future pregnancies. But that could happen in somebody who's had a miscarriage and they need to go and clean. So it's not something that is exclusive to choice termination.
Doing your homework properly could sometimes mean the difference between life and death.
Generally, we do actually have a database from the Department of Health that has all the facilities that provide service of termination of pregnancy. And if in doubt, don't do it. Find a credible space and a safe space for you to go and do your choice termination.
Making the choice to have an abortion is never an easy one, whatever the reason. It is always a good idea to have a proper understanding of what is going to be done, what method is being used, and why, and what the recovery will be like. The emotional aspect is just as important, both before and after the pregnancy is terminated.